So I learned a few things after watching round 6 of the AFL season. One of them being that Melbourne can just score at will and there's almost no way to stop them. Another one is that 78,000 fans at the MCG is unlike anything I've ever heard while watching a professional sporting event. And the last thing that I really learned, Donnie, was that you can become the first team ever to kick 15 straight goals without a behind in VFL and AFL history. But every single team that's done that has lost the game of footy. So, I take a small sample size maybe, but take that as you will. But man, round 6. If you're a tipper, I kind of feel bad for you because this was a really, or at least for me, I feel really bad because it was just, it was hard to watch. But I swear, not a single round of this season has missed. Every single round has been absolutely electric, and this round has been no different than from what we've seen this entire season. But of course, I'm your host, Ross Allen. This is another AFL breakdown show, and of course, I'm joined alongside by AFL correspondent Coach Donnie Hess. How are we doing today, Coach?
Oh man, round 6 had more twists than a road course in a NASCAR race. I mean, it just had so many twists and turns, whether it was upsets galore on Friday night, whether it was the absolute insanity that was the Anzac game. It had general managers of football yelling at referees. It had all sorts
A
of
little more than
everything.
yelling.
And sadly a COVID scare in the West Coast. So another round where anything is possible.
That's for damn sure. But this is Fourth Along, and this is the American voice of Australian rules football. But let's get rolling on into our round 6 coverage, starting off with GWS against the Bulldogs. And would you believe it, especially as a GWS supporter, I could not believe my eyes when I was watching this game. I was like, wait, it's not a blowout. I mean, it did get a little bad with the score, but that after like the last 3 minutes of the game, it was a really close game 99% of the time. And there was points where either GWS was keeping pace somehow, or there was times where they were even possibly outplaying the Doggies for not large periods of time, but for bits and pieces. They were right there, and I was blown away. Even in the loss, I was super proud of this team. I was super proud for how they were able to perform. And, man, talk about keeping the rivalry alive. I mean, going since 2016 with that amazing game in the preliminary finals. And then it was no different here. Things got a little chippy. Guernsey's got torn. Like you said, management of the team got fined for yelling at the refs and the kid. But I'm impressed and pretty happy with this. And my question to you is, after your coverage of this, Donnie, have the Giants shown the AFL how you might be able to beat the Doggies?
Um, I, it's one of those where it's like I think Leon Cameron did a wonderful job here of kind of making sure that he tried to do the least amount of damage against a team that has been absolutely electric. Now, it also helps a little bit too that Josh Dunkley tears his shoulder. He goes out. English ends up getting a concussion. There for a while, they thought he had a broken jaw. He goes out. So the Dogs lose a couple of their key players during.
Wasn't
this
that
run.
a broken jaw off that little late game incident with the little friendly fire?
I think so. Yep.
Yeah,
Goes for a specky and takes some knee right to the chin. I mean,
that was
you've
bad.
seen the UFC fighters you've discussed might have been jealous on that one because he hit him flush on the jaw. Now, Tim English's jaw is not broken. You know, he only has a concussion, but that means he will miss this week's game. Unfortunately, he will miss probably one of the biggest games of the entire season as of right now. But no, I think this was just a game where it was definitely chippy. These two teams do not like each other. Toby Green has continued his past-like thing. When it comes to the fine for the manager of football yelling about the free kick count, I can kind of understand it. I mean, there was a couple of times Toby Green got ragdolled, and they probably should have been a reversal of a free kick that they didn't call it. And unfortunately, it has been proven that Toby Green does not get the rub of the green very much anymore. So this is a GWS team that I think they're showing a lot of people that they're not going away. There is the talent there. And to do this against the Doggies, like I said, the final score 104-65 is not exactly indicative of how this game was a 2-goal or less game for most of it. If you really watch this game till the fourth quarter, it is nip, it is tuck, it is tight, it is physical. I mean, this is a finals type of atmosphere, the way these two teams played each other. So if I'm the Giants, I take a little bit of moral victory that you kept this Doggies team from blowing it open until late in the game when you're tired. So it makes a little bit of sense. If you're the Doggies, you kind of come out of this a little bit more wounded than you probably would like going into a very difficult game this weekend, even though the opponent that they have is a little bit weakened at this present point. I don't know. GWS there was a really good game by them. You hate moral victories as a coach, but sometimes you got to take them when you get them.
It might be this moral victory that helps Leon Cameron keep his job, because remember earlier in the season there was talks about that. I think right now he's done enough recently, winning 2 games and playing a really close one against the best team in footy. So for the time being, his job is safe. He's a little off the hot seat, but that might not last for long, because nothing really does at this point. But this just gives me a little bit of hope. Maybe a finals, maybe a little late season push to the finals. Not completely off the table yet. I'm okay with a little bit of hope. The next game we had was a shocker and an absolute drudging by the Geelong Cats, because in Jeremy Cameron's return to the field, West Coast gets absolutely blown out of the water by this Cats team. Cameron kicks 3 goals in his season and Geelong debut. And I promise, I don't feel slighted by this, but he did say that he's never felt chills during a game before. And no, I'm not going to take that personally. You bastard. Good for you. But, man, he looked great in his return. And so did... wasn't returned, but another guy that just phenomenal was Mitch Duncan with 4 goals, 13 marks, 12 scoring involvements, because this guy was just all over the field, and they just couldn't corral him at times. He was just doing everything for Geelong, so fantastic stuff there. But this ends up being the worst loss for the West Coast all the way back since 2009, about 12 years ago at this point, as they lose by 97. Oh, that's such a big number. That's such a big number. But a couple questions for this game, Donnie, is can the Eagles just blame injuries, because they did take an absolute beating in this game, especially since their backup captain, essentially, he goes out too. Also, are the Cats back?
Oh man, this is if you go off form, you would say yes. The Cats are winning. The Cats won games ugly without Jeremy Cameron. They play really, really well, and this is without Dangerfield too. That's another.
He's
thing
still out for another 2 months.
Yep, he's gonna be out. He's gonna be out a while with a syndesmosis that he's had surgery on. But the other thing you gotta look at it too is it's more of an indictment on West Coast than I would say I would put all of this on Geelong. I mean, West Coast's coach comes out after the game and says we were weak. I mean, not too many head coaches are going to come out and say that. I don't know. It's bringing up the trend. The Victorian Blues, they've played 3 games on the road this year with the West Coast Eagles, and they've lost all 3 of them. They have not won a single game on the road. They've won all 3 at home. So this is a West Coast team that I think the questions are valid. Is this team going to be able to win enough games to get into the finals? Because right now, 9 games at home is not going to get you into the finals, especially with a tough game this week, which we'll talk about later. I don't know. And to kind of go off what you talked about earlier, did you see Mitch Duncan's barrel at the end of the quarter, 65 meters for a goal?
Oh my, what a rocket. In America, I don't know if they have this from Australia, but in America we call something like that. We use this, or at least I use this saying, Don, you might not use as much, but maybe like a really hard hit home run, a really good punt in football, just called a piss missile. And that's what this kick was. That was a piss missile.
Yeah, and the crazy part about it is they actually reviewed it, and they didn't actually confirm it was a goal until they had actually had the sideline interviewing Mitch Duncan as it happened. So it was kind of this crazy, yeah, it was really really crazy because there for a while it took forever for them to confirm whether it was a goal or not, whether it was touched or not, whether it was going to be a goal or a behind. So it was just kind of, well, actually, no, if it was touched, it wouldn't have counted at all. So it would have kind of changed the game a little bit if it would have been called touch, but nobody touched it and it went through. This was a week of kind of several really interestingly unique goals, shall we say. We can talk about those a little bit later as we go on, but I don't know. This is more. I think this is more of an indictment on West Coast's lack of effort on the road again than it is about Geelong. Like, I think this round coming up is going to be another. I think a tester to see, is this Geelong team for real now, or was this kind of fool's gold a little bit? Kind of like with St. Kilda. St. Kilda beats West Coast, and then St. Kilda gets destroyed in the next game. So we'll have to see.
Now for Adam Simpson. How hot is his seat at this point in time?
I don't know if his seat's that super hot. I mean,
Is it warming? Is the game warm though?
Well, the Western Australians, I think they know that sometimes the road trips aren't as easy. Plus, and I hate this excuse, but it's very valid. I mean, Hearn didn't play. Yo is out for an indefinite amount of time. Shuey's battling an injury. McGovern, as you said earlier, goes out with a hamstring injury early in the first quarter. Some of their elite players, Petricelli didn't play. Flying Liam Ryan didn't play. He's still hurt for a while. So it's like a good chunk of their best 22 were not in this game. Now, does that give the excuse for them to lose in the way that they did? Absolutely not. Were there still superstars on the field that could have helped West Coast win this game? Absolutely. I hate using the injury excuse, but West Coast is one of the teams that could have a very viable argument that if they were full strength, they'd be a much different side.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to argue that point. But the next game we move into might be a little bit of a sore spot for you this round, Donnie. And man, I looked at this game and I was like, oh, how the hell did that happen? We had Gold Coast beating Sydney by 40. And while the Suns pull a huge upset, they handled the normally very high-scoring Swans. The one thing that really just stood out to me was just how the game looked. The Swans just didn't look like the Swans we've been seeing this season. Even in the loss to GWS, they looked even worse in this game. Normally what we see from the Swans is this super fast-paced offense, just passing the ball, a lot of disposals, a good amount of marks and clearances, and then it's hard to kind of describe it, but maybe the word hunger. I just didn't see the typical hunger from these young Sydney Swans that I was used to seeing through the first 5 rounds. They looked almost lethargic in times, but at least the Gold Coast, for their point, the young bucks of that team come through huge in this game. And are the Swannies on a bit of a hangover from that loss to GWS, or is this a culmination of multiple factors going on, or what, Donnie, in your opinion, what caused this lack of effort, seemingly, by the Swans?
Okay, again, being the Swans fan here, I'm gonna, this one I could rip apart in several different ways. One, I would say this is more Gold Coast stepping up and bringing the pressure to Sydney more than anything. If you watch the game, Gold Coast literally does not let the Swans breathe at all. I think the reason they look lethargic is because Gold Coast was up in their grill this entire game. Tuke Miller was absolutely electric in the midfield. Tons of disposals was there everywhere. Tackles were sticking. Swans were not hitting targets. There were many fumbles. There were many missed kicks, and the turnovers were then used against them. Gold Coast goes down, kicks goals. This literally was a game Sydney never really did get into this game. They got down early, and they could never kind of crawl back into it. Yes, Sydney looked lethargic. There are questions of maybe some of these young kids running out of steam after 4 really good games and a very tough game against GWS. I think this is a combination of several things. Gold Coast has their best game of the year after a crappy game against the Western Bulldogs, where really the third quarter was the only quarter that they played really good footy. Other than that, 1, 3, and 1, 2, and 4 were questionable for Gold Coast. There was questions about whether Gold Coast should continue to stay as a footy team, and I think Stewie Dew really got his guys going. I think Sydney a little bit took Gold Coast for granted, got punched in the mouth, didn't know what to do, and then it just all went to south, shall we say. I think the Swans look a little bit lethargic. I completely agree with you. I think a few list changes need to happen. I think Coach Longmire needs to swing the axe, and I think he needs to drop a few. He needs to bring a few up from the VFL, and he needs to kind of change it. Yes, this is not an easy game coming up this week. We'll discuss that later.
Yes,
but I think it needs to happen because the games at the SCG do something. You're still earlier in the year. You're not. I mean, all hope isn't lost. It's only 2 losses. You're still in the finals, but you gotta kind of right the ship now. 2 really difficult games in these next 2 weeks. You gotta try to get at least 1-1 in the next 2 to kind of right the ship a little bit. So I think that for me is it. I think this was just a perfect storm for Gold Coast to win and Sydney to lose. Just everything fell perfectly. It was a disaster of a game. You hope this is a mulligan game. This is a game that you go through the review, you fix the things, you come in and you come out nice and hot in this next game, this next round. We'll cross our fingers as Sydney Swans fans, hoping that we don't get a repeat of this round.
And maybe, just maybe, especially depending on how they perform in round 7, we might need to give a little more credit to this Gold Coast Suns team. Now, I'm not saying that I've been giving them their due. I've been trying to, but I haven't really downplayed this team in the last few rounds I've been talking about them. Almost like an Essendon kind of tier where they could be good. A lot of times they don't show up where they play close, but hey, maybe we'll see. Maybe you, I don't know, where were we at, Donnie? Last time I think I was like at 18 or 20. Gold Coast gets a big win. Maybe I'll bump their fan number to 25. All 25 of you Gold Coast fans have a little bit of hope to look forward to moving on into the later rounds of this season. But that takes us into Carlton in Brisbane, with Brisbane getting the best of this Blues team, although it was a very good game of footy. Carlton, they get off to a solid start. They keep the game close, but Brisbane's able to close things out late. This win gets them back into the top 8. And I think one of the biggest things is, no Lucky Neal, no problem. Because when you get Charlie Cameron, you get Eric Hipwood, leading Brisbane with 3 goals each. They really help carry this team. They kind of fill in for his absence. But on the other side, for the Carlton Blues, you got a guy that's now, I think he's a second or third in the league in goal scoring right now. And Harry McKay put on a show in this round. But what do you see most out of this game? And what's your biggest takeaway? And can we see Brisbane actually bouncing back from the really, really slow start?
This is the game. You have 2 teams going completely different directions. You've got a Carlton team that everybody had a ton of hope on to make the finals. That is, they're sinking like a lead balloon right now. They're leaking goals like a leaky faucet. Brisbane is starting to play well. The only issue that I see with Brisbane now is Lachie Neale will be out with a syndesmosis injury. It could be at least 6 weeks. He's having surgery today. So he will be out at least 6 weeks. So this Brisbane Lions team is going to have to figure out how to win games without their Brownlow medal superstar. Now, as we were saying earlier with the Mitch Duncan goal, this game had another very intriguing goal. Eric Hipwood has one that he kicks a goal that I don't think he was going for goal, but he got lucky and got a goal out of it. He got a kick down the wing and had Danaher leading towards him, and he simply over kicks Danaher by a good foot over his head, and the ball rolls through for a goal.
That was so funny.
and it's absolute comedy because you can tell Hipwood, he's got this cheeky little grin as they show the camera, and he celebrates a little bit, but you can kind of tell he's like, whoops, didn't mean to do that, but glad it went through. So, there was a couple of them that were absolutely, they were gold. And that was one of them.
Dying to quote the living legend or I guess not so living legend anymore, but Bob Ross, happy little accidents. Sometimes it's not about being good, it's about being lucky. So it just, when you're good, you're lucky, I guess. He created his own luck, Eric Hipwood, with gold a week, gold around.
Yep. So it's just, I think for many people, and especially with some of the outlets that I keep an eye on, I mean, more of the talking points out of this entire game is Carlton's absolute ability to find ways to lose games and to give up goals. And for a team that everybody had, it potentially they'll get out of the finals doldrums and get into the finals this year. I mean, it is looking farther and farther away each and every round. And David Teague has got to be wondering what he can do to change this, because his defense can't stop anybody. They kick goals, but his defense can't stop anybody, and his midfield's not consistent enough to keep people from scoring. So it's really, there's a ton of questions down in Carlton, and unfortunately I don't see it changing anytime soon. This Brisbane Lions team, I mean, right now is these next 6 weeks are going to be telling, because can they win games without Lachie Neale? I mean, there's almost as many question marks now with Brisbane losing Lachie Neale as there is for Carlton. So Brisbane gets the win, but what did they pay for? What did they give up winning this game, losing Lachie Neale? And speaking of Lachie Neale, did you see that what he did to get fined?
I'm not sure if I caught this one. What did he end up getting fined for?
Okay, so I know in American sports, I know you and I in American sports, is it perfectly legal to touch the referee to let them know something?
A little tap on the back normally doesn't get you fined, but there's some refs that are really annoying with it.
Okay. Well, in Australia rules football, you're basically not allowed to touch the referee at all. Well,
really? That's strict.
Basically, during a play, he was tackled and actually accidentally hit Eddie Betts' knee, and it cut him open. And as he was getting up from the contest, he was walking away. There was going to be a ball up because they didn't call a high contact because the referee didn't see his knee hit his face. So Lachie Neale, in his utter brilliancy, taps the referee on the shoulder just a way to get the referee's attention, points at his face, goes like this, and then walks for the blood rule to leave the game. He was fined $1,500 for that. And it is another talking point through many media outlets that what is and isn't acceptable, and that is something that many of them are getting more and more strict about, is that basically you can't touch the referees, not even to politely tap them and show them that you're bleeding, B, you probably should have got a free kick because you got kneed in the head. Again, it's kind of it was a really weird type of thing. Like, he gets the $1,500 fine, but you almost do kind of understand. He's like, he was just trying to show the referee, hey, I don't bleed by.
Did the club cover that?
I have not looked into that.
Man, if I'm Brisbane, I'm gonna just say, take 1,500 real quick for that BS fine. The rules are in place for a reason. I understand that, because you don't want people assaulting referees, but you have to be able to have. It's not a black and white rule. You should be able to have at least a little bit of judgment in this. If I'm going and giving some guy just hate, I'm trying to help you, ref, but I get fined for that. That's excessive in a way. I just don't really think there's a good reason for that. And I saw that. I didn't know he got fined for that. So, I thought he missed something big. I thought you were leading him up to like something he did, like maybe in the locker room or something between like quarters or halftime. But no, because he helped the ref out. Oh, that is absolutely ridiculous. And what is also,
And and this is just a continuation, because a couple of years ago, Tommy Hawkins actually pushed a referee out of the way, and it's become much more of a big. So it's become much more of a big talking point in footy nowadays, is that because of several instances that have been caught where the players have touched the referees. And again, I think it was relatively tame. I mean, it's not like he grabbed him by his shirt, pulled him back, and did that. politely tapped him on the shoulder. I think it's a little excessive. Pushing a referee or getting him out of your way, I can kind of understand that.
Yeah.
But it's one of those. I understand what they're trying to. They don't want any issues with the referees or any kind of like that. But it is kind of. I think it's very, shall we say, soft.
Yeah, you gotta look at, there's the letter of the law and then there's the spirit of the law. Sometimes you gotta choose the latter. But speaking of the latter, let's talk about who's on the bottom. Oh, how's that for a transition, Donnie? Oh, I am proud of myself for that one, because we had the Fremantle Dockers taking on your wooden spoon favorites, North Melbourne. And here we go, Donnie. My one per week. Good team, bad team. Good team beats bad team. But one of the things with this one, though, is that Dockers, they continue. This is now their third straight, which is resulting in a better look in our power rankings, which we'll get to a little bit later in the show. Of course, if you're 14 and 15, better accuracy would be great to see, especially against a team that you should be able to, I guess, quote, practice a little more against. It was a bit of a dicey game in the first quarter, but they pick things up in the second, and then they just get on a roll in there. I mean, between Matt Taberner and Lockie Schultz, 4 goals apiece. Man. And then one of the things is, before I talk about this real quick, the Roos' poor season, I would like to say, it's not for lack of effort. They're just not a good team. They don't have the talent to compete with these other teams they're going against. But it's not like they're just giving up and just letting these teams run over them. I am a bit of a fan of this Roos team, not because it's a pity thing, but it's because I still see fight in this team, even though when they have every option and excuse and opportunity to not give full effort. So I would love to applaud them, and at least their fans, they're trying for their fans, and so that's really pleasant to see. But my question is was this a bit of a disappointing game for Fremantle? I saw, of course, our guy, I'm now 1 week at a time over there on Twitter, which is a very fitting name for this point in time for Freo season. But he was talking about, he was asking if this was a bit of a disappointing game, if you're supposed to beat these teams by more. Is there a weight to that question?
I don't know. This is another game that, as I had mentioned at the top, this game was really affected in many ways because there was a COVID scare in Western Australia. And literally 14 hours after North Melbourne landed in Perth, a community case spread happened in Western Australia, and the Western Australian Premier shut the place down for 3 days. So there were rumors going around there for a while. This game may not have even happened. Now, this game was played behind closed doors. There were no fans there at all. I think that affected this game. I think if there were more fan support, I think Freo puts up a little bit more, puts a few more points on the board. I think it's a little bit more of an impressive showing for this Dockers team. Putting up 99 is still really good. Again, the ageless wonder, Dave Mundy, is absolutely electric. He's absolutely insane to watch. I love watching him play. Nat Pfeiffer is normal. Fast Freddie, their incredible youngster who's absolutely quick as a hiccup. He's so much fun to watch. Taverner, again, is great up forward. Brayshaw in the middle is I think this is the Freo team that I think they're hitting their stride. Yes, they've been injury riddled, but I think Coach Longmuir is starting to kind of get the team that he wants, playing the footy that he wants. And this is a team that could be dangerous because I think so many people look down on them because they're defensively strong, because they aren't the huge offensive threat as some of the teams in the league. I think this Freo team, they're gonna surprise some people as this year keeps going on. They are just steady. And sometimes steady teams are the teams that are the most dangerous because they don't waver. They are the same each and every game. And that's a scary prospect for this team 6 games in, and they're starting to hit their mojo now.
Certainly. That's not a good-looking prospect. And, hey, 1 week at a time. Let's just keep things rolling. And this Fremantle team right now, it doesn't seem like they have – it seems like they're really starting to build some momentum over these last few weeks. Like, you got the snowball effect is what it's looking like. They They got that initial snowball a few weeks ago. Last round, the snowballs pick up a little more steam, and now it's a big old snowball at this point rolling down that mountain. Isn't technically we're going into summer here in the States, so that means Australia is going into winter. Am I right about that?
Yep.
So maybe they could keep the snowball going for winter. The whole flipping seasons thing is weird. I still need one of you guys over on Twitter, please, or on YouTube. Does the toilet flush in reverse is compared to the U.S.? So is that a real thing, Donnie? Do you know?
I believe so. I think it is counterclockwise, but I don't think I'm not exactly sure that their toilets are built the same way ours are over here. But I'm not gonna comment too much on that. That's not exactly my realm of expertise. And I gotta ask Ross, did we miss a game there?
No, we did not, because we're going to the next one.
For next.
Well, okay. I'm just going off. Sorry, Don, I keep the schedule going off what the AFL website gives me. So if anything, I think they're messing with you, because the next one was. Of course, because we're going to get the next one. Just want to make a point that we asked the real questions here at Fourth and Long. We asked the real pressing matters, and that's so. Does your toilet flow in reverse? But honestly, an answer would be very nice to confirm from Ozzy. But the next game was an absolute shocker. But what a game this was! A huge comeback. In this one, Hawthorne and Adelaide, with Hawthorne taking this one by 3. First off, Adelaide with the new red Guernseys. I did like the look of those. They look pretty nice. Maybe, do you think they brought the red for a little more poppy color for the Anzac Day? Or was that or they just want to throw in a new Guernsey?
I don't know.
It looked good.
I'm so used to their blue ones that it was a little bit fun to watch, because with them playing Hawthorne with the brown and gold was a little bit of a jersey clash, a tiny bit if you just quickly looked. So it was fun. This game, to be quite honest with you, if you'd have told me this game would have ended out the way it did, I don't know, you were crazy, because Hawthorne.
No, you're going to the loony bin.
Oh yeah, defensive style. Adelaide could put up the points, but I wasn't expecting Hawthorne to stay with them offensively.
No, but especially after Adelaide scores 15 straight goals without a behind, and they finished 16 goals and 3 behinds, the most accurate game in AFL and even VFL history. So, like I said at the beginning, first time one team's done that, and they've lost every game. So I think my advice, Donnie, is kick behinds, right? Or is that the message you're going to hear? Just
at least one early.
I guess so, man. But Adelaide, they got to a huge lead halfway through that third quarter. They were leading by 32 in 1 point in this game. But 32 points is not enough against this Hawthorne team, I guess, because they just come roaring back in this one to get their first win since round 1. And what a game. I really don't have anything else to say. This was just absolutely sensational.
Oh, the people down in Tasmania probably thoroughly enjoyed this one. This was just a great game, and this had 2 great goal kicking performances. You had young debut Riley Thilthorpe, number 2 overall pick to the Adelaide Crows, kicks 5 goals.
Still a teenager, man. A teenager kicking 5 goals
in his debut. And then on the other end, Hawthorne has a former backman who they've moved forward, also kicks 5, and Jacob Kazitsky, who ends up getting the NAB Rising Star. There many people said it was either of those two. It was either going to be Phil Thorpe or Kazitsky who was going to get the Rising Star after the 5-goal performance for both of them. So just a really good game, really close, really tight. And then the other drama in this game, I don't know if you saw this. Did you see the medical sub drama for the Adelaide Crows?
Yeah, I saw it. I did not comprehend it though. Can you explain that a little bit?
Okay, so Lynch was the medical sub for the Adelaide Crows, and he's been fighting with a toe injury, and he was named as the medical sub, which we'll get into after all of this a little bit on some of my thoughts, and several pundits have weighed in on this.
I'm sure they have.
the Adelaide Crows had an injury with a minute left in the third quarter, and the injury sub then proceeded to start getting ready. Well, the problem is it took over 23 minutes, regular minutes, not game time minutes, 23 minutes for him to get ready. He needed to get taped up. He needed to take painkillers. He needed to warm up. For me, I kind of agree with some of these pundits. If it was going to take that long for this guy to get ready and he was already nursing an injury, why in Sam Hades was he the injury sub? you had a young Tasmanian kid on your list that was with you that could have played, and you pick the injured guy with the bad toe who's going to take 25 minutes almost to warm up and get ready for the game. And when he comes on, he has a grand total of 3 disposals.
Love that. Perfect, opportunity and option right there, quite frankly. The right choice, Donnie. I don't know what you're arguing about.
The fact that they were only up 3 points at the time and had a chance to actually put this Hawthorne team away is really, really bad look. I'm not going to go as far as some of them saying it was unprofessional, everything like that. I just think this is not a smart move by Matty Nix.
Yeah.
If this guy is injured and you're going to don't injury sub him, sit him. Let him rest, let him get healthy, and then go from there. It's I'm not going to question his thought. I'm not in the room. I don't see all of it. But for me personally, I know this is outside looking in. Put a young kid there. Don't put an injury-riddled player who's going to take 25 minutes to get ready. Yeah. I understand that you think you may have that time, but that might have been the reason you lost that game, because you did not have an extra rotation. So I can understand some of the pundits. I think some of the pundits are getting a little overboard with it. I don't think it was unprofessional. They're allowed to do what they want to do. I just think you got to be more prepared. He's either got to be ready to go, or he shouldn't be the injury sub in the first place. Personally, that's what I believe.
But now another question too is, after on the basis of this win, is Hawthorne actually a contender possibly? Is this more of a fluke, or where do we put the blame? Is Adelaide, should they be worried about a loss like this too?
I think this is one of those. This is a couple of teams that, honestly, if you ask most people, neither team are finals contenders. I think this Hawthorne team is somewhat in a rebuild. I think, except for a few old heads, they're pretty much playing younger players. They're trying to bleed younger players. They're trying to get games into some of these younger players in their list. I think Hawthorne, they're going to be a bottom 6 par se. I think it depends on how they go. I think Adelaide is kind of is a purgatory team. I think they had a chance for finals. I think they've lost a couple of games now that really have put them back in the mire, and it's not going to be easy. I think there's a chance, but I think Adelaide's got to have a few things go their way for them to get to the finals. I think Adelaide is further along in the development chain than Hawthorne is. I think Hawthorne still needs to kind of not fully bottom out, but kind of bottom out to let the team get some more younger talent, because they've traded away 3, 4, 5 first-round picks to get older players to keep their dynasty going after their run of flags there for a bit. So this is a Hawthorne team. I think they really need to infuse it with some young talent, and they just don't have it in their list right now. They're playing young players. They just don't have the top 1 to 10 players. They have guys that are 10th, 12th, 13th, 14th. So they're not the elite level talent that are going to change your club. So I think this is a Hawthorne team. I think they finish bottom 6. I think they get a top 5 draft pick, and then they start slowly building back up to the elite ways. The question is, does Alistair Clarkson stay, or does he move on? That's kind of the biggest thing there.
I think another last big question for this game, Donnie, is would you be able to help me explain to me as to why the officials were in blue in this game, not like their typical neon?
The Hawthorne gold is normally the neon yellow. It's close enough. They didn't want it, so that's why they go. It's the same thing when Richmond has their alternate kit is yellow and gold, yellow with the black sash instead of the other way around,
Yeah.
then they tend to wear the blue or the lime green. So then it's different. So it's not close to coloring. So you don't have any issue with jumper clashes, which wasn't as bad as we thought in the Anzac game, but I can still see where there was a tiny bit watching it from some parts of the MCG. You go, okay, who's who?
Yeah.
Because both teams wore black Guernseys.
So I appreciate you explaining that to me. And then, man, one of those refs, explain to me the exact name title from the
umpire.
The goal umpire. Is that what's called, the goal umpire? Yeah. So one of those guys, he did the little flick, and I saw those biases. Man, one of those guys was jacked. Okay, so man, hey, good for you, man. I need to get arm workout going like you do. But thank you for talking about Anzac Day, because Donnie, that rolls us perfectly. Look at you. And my segue's kind of like rubbing off on you. I'm proud. Look at you. What a game this was between Essendon and Brisbane. Oh my, this was a fantastic game of footy, and I'm going to give this one match of the round in my opinion. And it also did help that they had 78,000 fans packed in the MCG, just close, relatively close to their maximum capacity, about 100,000 there. This was the largest crowd in the world since the start of the pandemic last year. So they get it done. They did reach their goal. Is they weren't able to sell out necessarily, but they were able to host the largest sporting event that the world's seen in quite a bit of time. And Essendon, they bounced back from a bad loss to Brisbane last round. They get the huge win on Anzac Day. And like you said, the Guernsey clash wasn't half bad, but although it was close, the red sash of poppies on Essendon didn't help, and those Guernseys both looked fantastic. They did a great job with that as well.
Yeah, this was just this. I completely agree with you. This was game of the round, back and forth, absolutely electric game. Darcy Parish has an absolute worldie of a game. I think he had like 43 disposals, absolutely insane to see capitalized on the inner midfield thing. So I think Essendon is now starting to slowly build an inner midfield that I think is going to be elite for a long time if they can keep them all there. The biggest question will be, can they maintain merit after this season? Because I know several clubs are inquiring about his services. But this literally was a game where I think a lot of people said this was the game. Can Collingwood right the ship? And
nope.
The young kids of Essendon just didn't let it happen. When you've got superstars like Anthony McDonald, Tip and Woody kicking 5 goals up forward, and I still, there was a few pundits that went out saying that he had a very bad matchup for Collingwood early in the game, and that I think he had 3 of his 5 goals were kicked on this person. So there's almost a little bit of a question of, did they really think that a bigger, lumpier defender was going to stop one of the faster guys in the league? They eventually put Isaac Quaynor on him, and I think it kind of evened them out a little bit. But by then, I think the damage was already done. I think Essendon had got a lot of confidence. Young Nick Cox, their 202-centimeter ruckman slash wing slash midfielder, he looks to be absolutely elite. He looks to be a can't-miss draft pick for the Bombers this year. I think this Bombers team, they're going to push so many teams this year. I don't think they're going to have enough for finals, but they are sure going to strike some fear into some teams in the top 8 for sure, because they just keep coming.
So have I been kind of right on calling this team one of the more, if not the most underrated team in the league?
It's hard it's hard to say you're wrong on that one, because I think a lot of people going into this season with all of the transition, that I think Essendon was one of the teams. I think Essendon, Hawthorne, and North Melbourne were the 3 teams that everybody was saying they're going to be fighting for the wooden spoon. Some people put Adelaide. I never put Adelaide there. I thought Adelaide had a lot of positive momentum from the previous season. Who would have known Taylor Walker would have started the season as well as he did? But I think Essendon has kind of broken that mold, and I think Collingwood and Essendon have flipped places. I think Collingwood now has a better chance of fighting with North Melbourne for the wooden spoon, because Collingwood looks absolutely disheveled. They do not look right. I don't know what it is. I think Collingwood will win a few games. I don't think they'll be the wooden spoon, but they're definitely not in the part of the ladder that I think a lot of people expected them, and that was fighting for finals.
So how many weeks are you giving Nathan Buckley at this point? I've seen some people saying 2, some people saying 3, maybe 4. At this point in time, what's the leeway on him, and how long of a leash should Collingwood give Buckley?
I don't know. I think they're starting to slowly embrace the rebuild. The question is that
is it Buckley's rebuild?
Well, exactly, and I think that's the biggest thing. The president has come out and said that he believes that.
Wait, hold up. The president or the acting president? Did they actually get president?
Yep, they actually did.
Damn time.
Yeah, they finally did. It took them long enough. Took them 6 weeks after Eddie McGuire finally resigned before they finally got him, and which was really, really funny because they came out and the president said he still thinks the team is eligible for finals, which they could still make finals. I kind of had a nice hearty chuckle at that.
I mean, mathematically, Donnie, they can still make
yes,
finals.
They do. I know it's still very early. I don't see it happening, considering they still haven't played the cream of the cream of the crop of the league yet this year. So let's not jump into the Atlantic Ocean with a kick me sign. Okay. I don't know. I honestly believe if Bucks is going to embrace the rebuild and want to do the rebuild, I think Bucks stays because he's a Collingwood legend. Because I think a lot of people. Because he got his team into the finals contention, got him to a grand final. Yes, they lost, but he got him there. I don't know. My first initial thought is I think Buckley gets to the end of the season and I think he walks, and I'm going to stay with that. I think he gets to the end of the year. I just think that they're going to let him have the opportunity. I just think he's going to see how much work it's going to take, and I think he's going to walk away. That's me personally. There are several ways. I think this round, if he loses again and loses badly, I think that seat becomes quite hot to the point where I think by round 10, if they haven't gotten a second win, then there's the possibility that they relieve Bucks of his duties. But we'll have to see.
And of course, before we move on to the last round or last game of the round, I would be mistaken if I didn't talk about a maybe not height-wise, but a large man, a big man. He's one of the more shredded AFL players I've ever seen. But big man with the big game with Anthony McDonald, Tippin Woody. 5 goals, I swear, from 5 different parts of the field. And from 5 different parts where I didn't know you could really kick a goal from that spot. This guy was kicking everything, and he really just couldn't miss. And this big man just had a fantastic game, and really couldn't take my eyes off of him during this match of footy.
Yeah, the Tiwi Islander is an absolutely electric player. He's so much fun to watch. And as Ross learned earlier today, he's actually got a song about him. So,
which I will be listening to after we're done here. I will be able to bring you my thoughts about this next week. So you better listen. You better be there next week because you don't want to miss it. But honestly, it's not just the goal kicking. This guy was everywhere. And he could tackle like anyone can tackle. I just love the effort. Like a lot of these indigenous players are just out effort everyone on the field. So it's always fun to watch guys like that. I mean, with Bobby Hill, it reminds me of Bobby Hill. I wish Bobby Hill could score like he can. But in terms of like their aggression, their tackling, their relentlessness, and their ability to always kind of put themselves in the mix where the footy is. It's just one hell of a player. He's going to be leading that club. And for a little bit now, they have to maybe just get him to a long-term contract and call it good. But we'll finish the round with another, I guess, one of these good team, bad teams. Yeah.
I know you really want to get to Port and St. Kilda.
Do I really want to get to them?
But you actually did miss a game. You missed Melbourne and Richmond.
Did I skip? Oh my. Okay.
You missed the best game. The most elite game of the
that's
entire
funny.
round, and you skipped over it. I was literally sitting here
did that. I actually did that. Wow. Hey, look, you guys, everyone listening, you get to catch me make a mistake that I don't actually make a lot of the times because I always get there. I am
spectacular one at that.
Oh, what better way That's so funny. Man, why wouldn't we have you here, Donnie? Because that's what you're here for. No, see, it's all planned. You see, master plan. I want to hold people till later in the show, so longer listening, they want to listen to this game. Oh, man, I love it. Yeah, I'll wear this one as a mistake. It's still not as bad as the move Buckley could make, though. But Melbourne and Richmond. And, I mean, Donnie, you said this was a good game. I think this was a good game only if you're a fan of the D's, to be honest, because they moved to 6-0 for the first time since 1965. And it's really scary how this team could just seemingly score at will. It was a close game. It was a close game for a bit, and then it looked like Melbourne just was like, hey, guys, how about we just kind of, stop having this game be close, and then they just scored every goal. And Melbourne with 4 players with 2+ goals. So that's what I like to see, because you have a well-balanced offense, and also in the midfield you have Christian Petrarca. He just doing everything, goal behind, almost 40 disposals in this one. You had Dusty going down with a concussion, and that did not help them. That did not help them one bit.
It's really hard to say, but Dusty's injury really was the turning point of this game, because this game Richmond started off hot as all get out. They jumped Melbourne, and as I was watching the game, I went, oh my gosh, here we go. Richmond's going to expose Melbourne. Melbourne hasn't played some of the elite teams yet. Here we go. And it was like they hit that 2 to 3 goal lead, and it was like all momentum stopped. Melbourne finally got their game going and just kept coming, and there was nothing Richmond could really do. Dusty goes down with his concussion, and Melbourne just kept pushing. An absolutely electric game. The crowd was amazing, and it's hard to say now. The D's are legit. They are a legitimate flag contender. 6-0, only 2 teams left that are undefeated. You take down the 2-time defending champs. Mm-hmm. But the biggest question that I say now is that are the Tigers finally starting to descend, or did the D's just show that they're in that realm of being the legit team? And it's a very intriguing question that I think several pundits have gone on. I've heard some pundits say Richmond's done. There's no championship. They may make the finals. They won't win the title. And then I've heard some people go, well, Richmond's done this before. There was 2 seasons ago, they were 4-3 at this time. They were
Is it the boring answer, Donnie? Sometimes it's always fun to say, the crazy controversial answer and to be excited with it, especially for me, because, if you're a long-term listener, that's how I roll. But I think the answer here is the boring one. It's a mix of both. Melbourne is a really good team. Richmond suffered a giant injury in Dusty going down, although it's not good to have, 90% of your success centered around one player, albeit that player is one of the greatest in history of the game of Australian football. But Melbourne's really good right now. Richmond has been struggling a little bit this season. They have injury. Yeah, I think you could take both sides of the coin on this one, and there's really no problem with it.
And I tend to agree with that too. And again, this Richmond team, once they hit round 15, they start getting going. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing there is that they can keep themselves in the finals contention and get in. They're always a danger. They really, really are. All claps and hats off to Melbourne. An absolutely incredible game. Mm-hmm. And it starts getting some people looking at win to Melbourne and Western play. And it looks, if I remember correctly, it is round 11 that they play each other. And I know several pundits have already looked at their roads to each other in round 11. And there is a interesting possibility that both those teams could be playing each other at 10-0.
Oh, I need that in my life, because if you want just to take, if both these teams come to that round 10-0, you might as well just take a shot of just pure adrenaline and stick that into my heart, because, oh man, that's exactly what that round of footy would, or that match of footy would be. So, hey, fingers crossed that we get there. I would not would not complain if we actually saw two 10-0 teams going at it, especially because I doubt that has really happened all too often in this long tenured history of footy. But, Donnie, before you caught me, let's move into, the most exciting game of the round. This is what everyone wants to talk about. Port Adelaide in St. Kilda. Oh, yeah. No, I can't force myself to get excited for this one. Port Adelaide won. It was easy for them. They keep a spot near the top of the ladder. And the Saints really just haven't looked that good since they pulled off the giant upset against West Coast. Now, it looks like less of an upset at this point because of how West Coast has looked subsequently, but still a win by, was like 80 points. So that's always going to be massive no matter who you're playing. But the real question here is how scary of a team is Port Adelaide? And if you want to look ahead a little bit on the schedule, they play the Doggies in round 9. And do they have a chance to compete against this team? I know we're looking a little further ahead, but I still am super curious at this point in time.
I honestly, I know that the D's and the Western Bulldogs are undefeated, but for me, this Port Adelaide team is the scariest team in the entire league. Just because I think they have the right spread of depth in each line. I think the Doggies D are their weakness. I think Melbourne's defense is that their forward line, you don't know what their best forward line is because, again, they don't have Big Ben Brown or Petrarca or Wiedering. Sorry, Petrarca's in the midfield. They don't have those two big forwards available yet or haven't played yet. Now, again, they're undefeated without them. We'll have to see. Again, that's a selection problem that their coach, that's a good thing to have. And Western now has Dunkley injured, and we said English is injured, so we'll have to see how they respond this week. I know Melbourne still has to play Sydney, so does Sydney get their form back when they play each other in a couple of rounds? So honestly, like I said, I think Port is the most dangerous team to both of those two undefeated teams because I think they have the depth in each of the rounds, each of the parts of the field. They're going to give trouble to everybody. Yes, they dropped that game at West Coast, but I think that was a little bit of their first road trip. They weren't completely ready for it, and I think they're a better team because of that loss. This game against St. Kilda, they literally put them to the sword, and they did not let up till late in the game. It wasn't as bad as it could have been, but I think that's because Port they put it in neutral for the fourth quarter and just kind of let it ride because they knew it was over. Me personally, I think this Port team potentially could be the folly to these two undefeated teams that could keep us from two 10-0 teams playing each other.
Yeah. Fingers crossed they don't get in our way of greatness, though. However, I'm sorry, Port Adelaide fans. I personally just don't want to see that. But that's going to do it for our Round 6 recap and bring in a new segment of what Donnie's going to be doing every week from now on and what you'll be able to see in here, not only in the show, but you'll be able to see over on our socials every Wednesday, the day that this show drops, at least here in the States, is over on the Twitter, at Fourth Long Radio, Instagram, at Fourth Long Radio. Links here in the bio if you want to go check that out if you're on YouTube. Or you just go to thefourthandlong.com for everything Fourth and Long. But he's going to bring us his team of the week. He's going to compile the top players from each position, and he's going to tell us who they are because, of course, this is the only list that matters. And I'm not even being sarcastic, it really is, because if you're listening to someone else, don't. Donnie, take it away, my friend.
Alrighty, we'll go through this relatively quickly. We won't waste a lot of time. I think this is always fun. So I tend to go with a little bit of stats and a little bit of performance. So for our defenders, for the defensive back six, we have Alira at defense halfback, 20 disposals and 7 intercept marks in this last game against St. Kilda. North gets a special shout out here with Jack Zeeble hopping in with 37 disposals.
Real quick, don't mind cutting you off, Donnie, but I just want to make a point that Lear might be one of the better transactions. I mean, Jeremy Cameron was a huge one during the trade period last year, but Lear is proven to be a very valuable acquisition.
Completely agree with you. I think he is a very good shot of being the All-Australian fullback this year for sure. Staying with Port as well, Dan Houston, 32 disposals in their defensive as they completely shut down St. Kilda. I got to give a fun shout out here. Yes, that game between Adelaide and Hawthorne was a goal fest, but I have to give it CJ Jath, the young player halfback, 26 disposals and 4 score involvements for the young halfback. And he had several absolutely electric plays out of the back. Loved watching him play. Incredible game there. He's going to be on my starting team. Christian Salem for the Melbourne Demons with 39 disposals, a goal, and 9 intercept marks for this player, one of his best games of his career. And last but not least, a good old GWS, Lockie Ash, 35 disposals and 2 score involvements out of the defender there. That is the defenders for Coach Hess's team. Let's jump to the midfield. Let's go out onto our wings. First wing is Carl Amon, also from Port, 37 disposals, 1 behind kicked, and 6 score involvements. On the other wing, we'll hop out and jump on Ed Langdon, who I think is one of the best pickups for Melbourne, 32 disposals, a behind, and also 6 score involvements. Let's go into the midfield, into the guts of the midfield. We'll take Sydney's Josh Kennedy, an amazing 42 disposals, a behind, and also 7 score involvements. The Doggies, Jack McRae, their disposal machine, another 40 disposals, a goal and a behind, and 10 score involvements for the midfield. And a personal best for the Essendon midfielder, Darcy Parish, 42 disposals, 2 goals, and 9 score involvements for the
Ridiculous
young midfielder. Taking his shot in the ruck after taking his shot in the midfield after Shield goes down. Our ruck will be Brody Grundy from Collingwood, 40 hitouts, 19 disposals, a goal, a behind, and 10 score involvements from the roving ruck. Let's hop out to the forwards, and this is going to be interesting. I tended to pick goal kickers in this one, but I did throw a few swings. First, we have Shai Bolton from Richmond, 28 disposals, a goal, 2 behinds, and 5 score involvements for the quick forward from Richmond. Port Adelaide gets their 4th member as I pick Orazio Fantasia, who had 15 disposals, 3 goals, 3 behinds, and 8 score involvements altogether. I got to give a shout out. I watched him do it to my team. Unfortunately, Gold Coast, Ben King, 14 disposals, 5 goals, a behind, and 10 score involvements for the big forward from the Gold Coast. Carlton's Harry Mackay.
I messed up again this round. I know as soon as I said it, it's all good. Learning experience again.
He had 15 disposals. He had 6 goals, leading the round, 2 behinds, and 9 score involvements. Hawthorne's Jacob Kosicki, 14 disposals, 5 goals, 3 behinds, and another 11 score involvements. And last but not least, in the starting lineup, first-year rookie and amazing debut, Riley Philthorpe, 16 disposals for the young man, 5 goals, and 6 score involvements from the young rookie. Will jump to the bench.
It's weird watching Philthorpe in his debut and just kind of watching that game because I didn't know he was a rookie. And it did not look like he was a rookie.
He's a man child. There was a few really big boys in this draft.
Yeah, there were.
So for my bench, what I did is I picked 4 bench players, but I picked 1 from each section of the field. 1 defender, 1 ruck, 1 midfielder, 1 forward.
Genius.
My defender on the bench is Sam Doherty from the Carlton Blues, 28 disposals, 10 intercept marks, and 5 score involvements for the halfback. For our backup ruck, it's hard not to say it. Also on the undefeated Melbourne Demons, Max Gond with 30 hits outs, 22 disposals, and 7 intercept marks for the ruckman who loves to play back. In the midfield, I'll give some more love to Gold Coast, Tuke Miller, 36 disposals, 5 score involvements, 6 intercept marks, and several smothers for the roving midfielder from the Gold Coast. And last but not least, you're going to listen to his song a little later from Essendon, Anthony McDonald Tippenwoody, 10 disposals, 5 goals, and several in something close to 400 meters gained, even as a forward, which is pretty impressive. And that is my round 6 team of the week. Some pretty impressive performances there. That was a lot of fun. I have to admit, that was really, really fun going through some of the analytical parts of the game. That was a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any debates or questions of people you think maybe should have been on, please reach out to me at Coach Donnie Hess with our Twitter. We will put that team out on writing tomorrow. Throw in any suggestions. Yes, I know I didn't put any Frio guys in there because I think Frio really had a team performance more than any super standouts there, but there are still plenty of rounds of footy to go to check that out. So that is my team of the week.
Woo! And like Donnie said, go if you have any qualms with it. If you want to throw some support, especially GW's fans, getting us some representation on there. Go check that out. It's going to be out on Wednesdays. It's going to be afternoon Australian time. And then I'm just going to say U.S. and Australian time because who the hell cares about time zones when you're across the ocean? Those are irrelevant. And now we get to roll on into our round 7 power rankings, and I gotta say, if you caught a glimpse of these over on our Instagram or Twitter, I said in the caption, I promise I posted 2 different graphics. The only difference though is one said Donnie and one said Ross, because great minds think alike, and we had the exact same power rankings. And although I swear, absolutely promise, I did not look. I don't look at Donnie's power rankings when he gets them out to me. I make mine, and then I look at his. I make his. Just happens to be this way. But at the same time, we kind of talked about this pre-show, Donnie. Is that it's really, really hard to argue otherwise than what we have here. It was a crazy round, but for how crazy it was, that power rankings were super simple to make. Starting us off at number 5, for the first time this season, getting onto it, it is the Geelong Cats. And they move up in the ladder at this point in time. They're number 4 right now. But the difference between them is what I didn't have them on last round. But Donnie, and I guess I should have had them on last round, it was Fremantle in number 4. Although Geelong is on the ladder number 4, Fremantle's at number 6. You can make this was the biggest kind of, I guess, hardest thing to describe or to determine on this list, because Freo winning 3 games in a row. Geelong's only won back-to-back, but Geelong had a giant blowout. Fremantle maybe played to some a little disappointing against the worst team in footy. But at the end of the day, we had Fremantle over Geelong in this one. Is that kind of your same argument there?
Yeah, again, I've said form, and for me, a win's a win, no matter if it's by 1 point or 99 points. And I think Freo is starting to kind of get it. I think the reason that I put Geelong in at 5, not only because of the fact that Richmond also loses, most of the team around them kind of did not play as well. But I think the Cats, that game against West Coast, again, we kind of, you put a little bit of an asterisk considering the coach said they played weak. I think the Cats, getting Jeremy Cameron back, I think they're starting to kind of find their mojo. They've won some ugly games this year where they didn't look really good. That was a little bit more of an impressive performance. I think this round coming up, who they play this week, we'll discuss that in just a second. I think it's going to be another litmus test for them. It's going to be, are they the team that we think they are, or was that another one where West Coast makes us think a team is better and then they get proven wrong?
And then the 3, 2, and 1 teams are the same exact teams that we've been having for 3 rounds at this point in time, essentially, with 3 being Port Adelaide, 2 being Melbourne, and number 1 being the Western Bulldogs. I guess I can see some people having the argument between the Doggies and the D's. You could make the argument there for Port Adelaide. No, not really. They're 5-1. They're good in the middle of there. They're not going to be better than Melbourne or the Doggies, at least not yet. They have the chance to do that in a couple of rounds here. But it's pretty cut and dry. Here at the top, you have the 1, 2, 3 teams, and they are 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, it's hard to argue. Like I said, Port had that loss to West Coast, which I think, again, was a little shocking. Again, they didn't play as great. But I still say I think Port's gonna climb up. I think Port's going to cross their fingers that with Melbourne and Western still having to play them and each other, that this is going to fluctuate a little bit. But I cannot wait for those matchups later in the year. But oh boy, it's going to be fun watching these next few rounds of footy.
You can say that again, because that is going to take us into our last bit of the show with our round 7 tips. And now we have another solid round of footy ahead of us, as long as everything lives up to the hype, especially with the first game. Now, I will say that before round 6, I was extremely excited about this game. But given what went down with Richmond last round, especially with Dusty being out for this one now, my excitement has taken a hit in this one, and I see this game, it could still be a good game, but it's not going to be as close as I thought it was going to be, because the first game of the round is Richmond and the Western Bulldogs. I got the Western Bulldogs in this one, but I would have had them closer last round, but this round I probably got them by good, I'd say 30, if I'm being honest.
You're not too far off of me. I have them by 4 goals. I just think this Western Bulldogs team, they're just playing, and their strength is in the midfield, which I think losing Dusty does hurt them.
Mm-hmm.
Dusty is kind of a midfield shifting forward. It's really weird that Richmond likes to do that. They put Dusty in the mid just to get him that chance to get the footy.
Yeah.
And then he kind of drifts forward, and then one of their half forwards kind of moves into the middle to take his place, and that's kind of how they kind of do that. So he's gonna affect him a tiny bit. I don't think he's the devastating Richmond's gonna look absolutely horrible without him. I think they still run a system that is a team system. They're not gonna be devastated by that. I just think it will affect them because they don't have that game breaker in the midfield. And when you've got guys like Treloar, you've got McRae in the midfield, you've got some of the guys in the midfield that the Bulldogs have. I just think there's more game breakers for Western than there are for Richmond because of the fact Dusty is not going to be in the lineup.
And then the next one we got going on is Collingwood and the Gold Coast Suns. Two teams that are on two opposite trajectories, even though they're only a game apart on the ladder. But I got the Suns in this one. I got Collingwood just continuing to tumble. And man, oh boy. If you're a Collingwood fan, if you're a fan of the Magpies, of course, most recently, kind of like a couple of rounds ago, I learned that they're historically the most hated team in the AFL. So if you're just a basic fan of footy, you like to see this team lose. That's exactly what's going to happen here, and you're going to be a happy camper.
I'm gonna completely agree with you on this one. Maybe it's a little bit of Stockholm syndrome because they just beat the Sydney Swans, but I got the Gold Coast one in this one. I don't like the mojo. There is a chance Jordan Ngoe could be back for Collingwood. I just don't think he brings everything that Collingwood needs. I think Collingwood needs a lot more structure in the midfield. I think their midfield is kind of, they've got superstars, but they're just not gelling the way I think they probably could. I think this Gold Coast team, if they come out with the performance they did against Sydney, they will win this one, even in Melbourne. I agree with you. Let's go Suns on this one.
And then with the next game, if you show me this matchup, I said about 3 rounds ago, I would say, the Giants have absolutely zero chance against the Crows. But what have you seen over the last couple rounds with Adelaide and the last couple rounds with GWS? I'm like, this is a little more interesting. I have a little more hope in this one. And call me over-optimistic. Call me just being a little bit of a homer on this one. But I think the Giants have the advantage to take care of their forward momentum and Adelaide's backwards momentum and be able to capitalize on those two factors going to this game. And I would say I got GWS in a very close game this round.
This is my proverbial coin flip. This one I should have coin flipped because it would have been so much easier. Because I completely agree with you. 3 weeks ago, I had Adelaide all week long. I've bounced back and forth on this one a couple of times, but this is one of those I go to one factor. Where is it being played? It's being played at Adelaide Oval. The Crows play really well at the Adelaide Oval. They've only lost 1 game this season at home. GWS sometimes doesn't always travel as well. GWS is coming off a very physical game against the Western Bulldogs, and I think Adelaide played a very fast-paced, open game. It wasn't so physical with Hawthorne down in Tassie. So honestly, I'm going to go the Crows on this one, but this one is one where if GWS wins this, it will not surprise me because I think this is like 51-49. That's how close I think this game is. Two teams very similar. I think the winner of this one looks a little bit better when it comes to maybe being sneaky chance for the finals.
I like that. And then the next game on the schedule is going to be one that, I don't know, man. Looking for last week, it doesn't look like it's going to be close because we have the Hawthorne Hawks taking on St. Kilda. St. Kilda coming off of a bad loss. The Hawks come off of a huge win, and I see no reason why the Hawks should really struggle in this one against the Saints.
I completely agree with you on this one again, man. Are we going to have any differences in this one?
I don't know. It's going to be like the power rankings.
Maybe
We'll get a little closer to a game in a couple matchups. I see one.
Maybe we'll see. But yeah. I like the way Hawthorne is playing. I think they've kind of got their little groove now. This St. Kilda team is rudderless. They may get Patrick Ryder, which will help them out a little bit in the midfield. But there needs to be better effort. This is a team that has been exposed this year by some of the coaches, and I'm not sure if that trend is going to change anytime soon. Give me the Hawks in this one.
Now, in this next one, it was a game that we almost should have gone, quite frankly, in last year's finals. I was almost surprised that we didn't get this matchup, but we have the Brisbane Lions, we have the Port Adelaide Power going to the Gabba. And, Donnie, you said this is the scariest team in the league. I don't think I'm referring to the Brisbane in this one. It's Port Adelaide. What's the margin of victory for Port Adelaide on this one? I think is a real question.
The loss of Lachie Neale really makes this game from could be potentially tight to could be broken open. I think Port, the travel is the only thing that worries me a little bit. Again, their last big travel was to West Coast. They got beat. I don't think Brisbane's as dangerous as West Coast is right now, especially with Lachie Neale not playing. Port Adelaide is so deep. I think Brisbane stays in this because they do have talent. They do have a lot of really good players throughout the footy field. I just think that the better talent is on the Port Adelaide side. I think this is at least 3 goals on this one. I think Port kind of shows why they should be legitimate contenders for the flag this year. I think they beat up this Brisbane Lions team that I think are going to be a little bit vulnerable without Lachie Neale.
Now, this next one could be like you're kind of saying with Sydney, this could be a large test for the Geelong Cats because we have Sydney, we had the Cats at the SCG. This is a really hard game for me to tip, if I'm being honest. Part of me wants to go with the momentum because momentum's a real thing in sports, so don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Sydney's a little down, Geelong is up, but ultimately, if I have to look at this objectively and to really think about which team that I've liked for the majority of the season, I'm going to have to go with the Swans on this one. But for me, this is a huge toss-up. Similar to the toss-up between GWS and Adelaide. I really don't know who's going to win this game. I'm going to side with the team that's been best through the majority of the season and been better. But it's really going to come down to like a goal and maybe a couple behinds on this one. Maybe it comes down to what Jeremy Cameron does.
Okay, so I'm gonna devil's advocate tip here. And I know there's some Swans fans who are gonna be like, "What the heck?" Yeah, I'm going to tip Geelong. Let me explain here. If I go by what I've seen, okay, the Swans' performance last time was not very good. They lose another player in Sam Reid to a calf strain. Potentially could get Dean Rampy back, but we're still not sure. McCartan pulled last time. We'll have to see. There's a few too many injuries in a few places that scare me, especially in the forward line. And they got really picked apart by Gold Coast of the forward line. When you've got Cameron and Hawkins and no real number one defender to put on either of them, let alone both of them, that's a scary situation there. I think the ruck battle is even. Even Sinclair coming in for Hickey, I think he evens Stanley, so I don't think there's a matchup there. I think Sydney has the right talent to kind of even match up there. Offensively, on the offensive side of Sydney, I think Sydney has a few advantages there. I think they've got some speed in places Geelong doesn't. But there is a massive advantage for the Cats in the forward line when it comes and their forward in Sydney's defense because of so many injuries. If the ball lives in the Cats offensive 50. It could be a long game for the Swans. I'm gonna tip the Cats on this one, but I'm still Sydney. This is a game, if they can get on the right roll, can win this one. I'm gonna say it there. I'm gonna tip the Cats. I'm hoping the Swans. So I'm devil's advocating myself a little bit. I'm tipping the Cats. So even if they lose, at least I can be happy with the Swans won. If they lose, I get the tip right. So I'm a winner either way.
Unbelievable. That is a awful move. And if you're a Swans fan, you should be chastising Donnie at this point. I do not support him in that sense. Oh, you traitor to the team, Donnie. At least this next game, though, is going to be the easiest game ever to tip. North Melbourne in Melbourne. And North Melbourne is going to take this game by a mile. It's super easy. Why wouldn't you go with them? I mean, yeah, no. There's Melbourne by. Do you think they put up 150 in this one?
Potentially, I don't know. I think this is one of those. I think North Melbourne comes. It is going to be down in Bluntstone, down in Tassie. So I think this is going to be a little bit more to that. I think it's a little bit closer just because I think sometimes when you play a game like Richmond and then you get a team like this, you can kind of take them for granted a little bit. I think this is a game where the end of the first quarter, I want to see what the score is. If North's leading at the end of the first quarter, I want to see how Melbourne responds. I'm going to throw a lot of people like, what the heck are you talking about, Coach? These are the games that frighten me because you get a team that's just won a big game.
Yeah.
They know they're playing a team they should win. This is the game where they take it kind of half-heartedly, and the other team knows they need to play their best. This is a game that could be a tiny bit scary. I think North wins. I think Melbourne wins this. Not North, Melbourne. The Demons. I have the Demons winning this one. But I think North stays in this game a lot more than people think. I think they terrify a few Demons fans mid-third quarter if this game is under 20 points.
Twitter's going to be a lot of fun to watch if that's the case. Our next game is going to be the Carlton Blues and the Essendon Bombers. And I'm going to roll with the Bombers in this one. I got the feeling because I've been good on them. I haven't been hot, but I felt good. I've been trying to give credit to this team through most of the season. Carlton, like we mentioned earlier in our round breakdowns, is that they're kind of slumping right now. They're disappointing a lot of people this season, and I think this is the big. I don't know if you could call a win over Carlton at this point a big win, but I think for Essendon, this could be a really positive win for them this round.
Yeah, Carlton's leaky in the back. I think Essendon is absolutely on fire right now. They're flying high after that win against Collingwood. I think they continue it at the MCG. I have the Bombers getting another big win at the MCG. Now,
the last game of the round could be a tricky one to tip, because if you look at face value, the Fremantle Dockers have won 3 in a row. The West Coast Eagles, they are falling apart at the seams, and they're just riddled with injuries. But it is at Optus, so you got to give a little more credit to the Eagles because they somehow almost always win, no matter what the hell is going on at that stadium. But man, it's hard for me to really say because even with everything going on right now, with Optus. If you look, it's just this Frio Dockers team is just a lot better and well put together this time. They're not super healthy, but they're healthier than the Eagles. I know that's not saying much, but they are. I like Frio with this one, given that it is an Optus, so it's going to be a really close game because the Eagles are almost always able to put on a really good showing in their home stadium.
This is one of those where it's okay. Now, another thing that you got to realize when the two Western Australian teams, it's the derby. They play each other. It's the derby.
Okay.
It's
Derby.
West Coast has won the previous. I think it's 10. So Frio is ripe for a win here. I think I'm going to go Frio on this one because I like their momentum. I think that Frio's midfield is better right now because of all the injuries to West Coast than West Coast midfield. I think when you have Fife on your team, it's really hard to go against you, especially when he's playing as well as he is. They both play Optus Stadium really well, so this is going to be so much fun to watch. I'm going to tip the Dockers on this one just because I I think they get off the schneid with this streak, and I think they continue this. I think this Freo team continues to push and prove themselves to be a genuine finals contender this year.
And to get the shine, to get the monkey off their back, what better time than now when you can take advantage of this depleted Eagles team. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for us for our Round 6 coverage of the AFL season. Now, of course, if you haven't yet, please go follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, because you want to stay going with us. And not only us, because you want to go follow Donnie Hess on there as well. And what's up there, go ahead and follow the USAFL at USAFL 1997. Is that correct, Donnie?
Yep.
Ooh, that is correct. Because you gotta. There's no other reason. I'm not going to give you a better reason than that. You have to. I'm just going to tell you now. But, Donnie, for round 7, give me your feelings on that in one word or phrase.
Oh, man. Exhilarating.
Exhilarating. My phrase is, I guess I'll just go with, I don't know. And that, which has been my feeling for most of this season. Ladies and gentlemen, we will catch you after round 7.